Okay, real quick, if you just want to jump straight into the Let's Play and gameplay footage, there's links in the description. Go for it. Otherwise, I just need a real quick intro from you, so thanks for your patience. So, the footage you're about to see is older. You'll notice I mentioned I recorded it right after I did Aladdin, if that tells you anything. So I had 2 more recent takes of this. One is gone forever. It was renamed as something else and deleted. And then something else got named Road Rash. And so when I went back to it, I was like, oh, this isn't what I needed. The actual file's gone for good. Then there was another take that was decent. And I was even more of an idiot than on Golden Axe, and I drowned out almost all of my commentary with the game audio. And it was rendered on the fly, so I couldn't go back and rebalance it to save it. So, what you're about to see is actually, when I reviewed it again, I was like, actually, this isn't too bad. At the time, I was tinkering with pushing a higher frame rate and OBS. I did have some dropped frames in a few spots, and I was like, that's kind of icky, I'd rather do it again. You know, it's one thing to have some hitching here and there, especially with older equipment and analog signals, but when I looked at it again, I was like, okay, it's not too bad, but I'll leave it to the audience to decide if it's shit or not. So, I'm hoping that past me has come to the rescue of present me to set future me up for success. And lastly, I mentioned some point in the commentary that it's a 33-year-old Grudge match, because I was going off of, like, oh, Road Rash came out in 1991, which it did. However, we didn't get a Sega Genesis until 1992, and didn't play this until the end of 1992. So, the title of the video is correct. It's, for me, a 32-year-old Grudge match to finally beat this damn game. So, without further ado, please enjoy part 1 of Past Me beating Road Rash on Sega Genesis. Well, here we are again. I don't know if the outtakes will be uploaded by the time this goes live, but the prototype episode for this series was me attempting to beat Road Rash. It didn't go well toward the end. I got to level 5, but the main reason I didn't use any of that footage up to this point is because the audio was terrible. Not so much me speaking to you, but I messed up the audio mix, so all you heard was the echo from the TV itself and not the direct feed, which was, like, such an amateur mistake. So I already know in advance that this is going to be split up into parts. Even if I have an amazing run through the first few levels, it's just not practical to go for this in one shot. I mean, it'd be impressive, but I think that's just a little bit beyond the scope of what I can accomplish in this one video. So. If you had never played this game before, you might think, oh, Biff. I mean, he looks kind of like a uptight, preppy boy in that photo, but no offense to the person that that character was based on. But Biff's a jerk. So the other thing going on in this video, coming off of the Aladdin video, which preceded this, is I figured out how to get OBS running smoothly at 60 FPS. So far, I haven't noticed a performance hit to the computer. Now, this game doesn't benefit at all, because it has a pretty bad frame rate, even in the best of times. I don't think... Digital Foundry has a better breakdown than I will of exactly what's going on and the exact FPS, but I want to say this game tends to hover somewhere between 15 to 20 at best. But it still maintains a great sense of speed and is very smooth and responsive. It just takes a moment to adjust. But the game's engineered in such a way that like it acknowledges that, and it's kind of built around that lower than average frame rates. Because unfortunately, the Genesis doesn't have hardware-based sprite scaling, so this is being done in-engine. The software is doing a lot of the heavy lifting to create the scaling effect. Unfortunately, that led to a performance hit. I've never had a problem with it, and even after coming back to it, after not playing it for some years, there's maybe a brief period of adjustment, and then it's like smooth sailing from there. So this game does break you in gently. Level 1 is almost too easy, but it does give a good job of letting you come to terms with the controls, the combat. You know, your starter bike does not wipe out very easily, so you can take turns at full speed. You don't have to worry about brakes very much. It does a good job of just letting you come to grips with how the game works. The music seems to be divisive in this game. Some people really bash it, and others love it. I've always liked it. Except that music that plays the tally screen after a race, that is a little bit abrasive. But this is my favorite music track right here on Pacific Highway. It's super groovy. It's got a metal edge to it. Especially on original hardware, really sounds excellent. The bass is awesome. I mean, if it's just not to your taste, that is what it is, but I do think it's one of those soundtracks that people have judged harshly because they've not heard it on original hardware, or original hardware that had undergone revisions and was using inferior audio. Like some of the very late Model 2s and Model 3 and Genesis systems were really took it up the bum on the audio. In emulation, the one area where consistently it does not measure up on the Genesis and Mega Drive is audio. You know, as of 2024, you know, some stuff like the Genesis Mini, and then some of maybe the top-of-the-line, highest accuracy software emulation does a decent job, but still nothing can quite match the audio majesty of the Model 1 Genesis. And maybe the best of the best Model 2s. So I just came off a stream. The Streams of War. Finished playing Gears of War. Sadly, by the time you're watching this video, the Xbox 360 marketplace will be gone. I know some of you don't care. or might have cared at one point, but now, have made peace with, hey, the system had its run. The store stayed up a lot longer than I expected, that's for sure. But it is the end of an era. The PS3, as of this recording, is the last holdout for the 7th gen digital marketplaces. At this point now, who knows how long that'll last. Says the guy who attacks you at every opportunity, especially with a club. I do love this game, though. I know, the title of the video and the thumbnail is... Well, I guess if you don't get the sense of humor, or haven't played this series before, you might take it too much at face value. I do adore this game, and its Genesis sequels. And I even like Road Rash 3D on PlayStation, even though a lot of people over the years have hated on that one. But lost my train of thought. I brought up the Gears of War stream just because, like, it's another instance where, like, maybe I should have taken a longer period of time between doing that stream and recording this, but I just felt motivated, even though my voice is a little bit beat up already. Definitely on the dry and the rough side, but I'm still in kind of a feisty mood. Just wanted to play this and see where it went. I think knowing beforehand that I would do this in at least 2 parts is helpful. So here's the thing, is, as I said, this game breaks you in gently. Level 1's almost too easy. By the time you get to level 5, this is one of the hardest games I've ever played. Most anyone has ever played. So the way the levels work is there's 5 locales to race in. And that never changes. But as you win each level, the tracks get longer. You open up longer and longer stretches of the track until by level 5, I think they're like triple the length that they are in level 1. But then, memorization by itself won't help either, because cars are randomized, some obstacles are randomized, and of course, you have the riders. They have some basic different behaviors, but a lot of them tend to be pretty aggressive. So you have to contend with that. Then you have to contend with the cops, and they're not always in the same places either. And then to stay competitive, you have to buy faster and faster bikes. So with the faster bikes, even on the beginner stretches of the track, it starts to become really hard to maintain control. So you can see all these things work together so that by the time you stack all this stuff at level 5, it's like, it becomes like a gauntlet of endurance just to make it to the end, much less win. Oh, Road Rash. So yeah, the hard way, not using any of the passwords to skip ahead, and not relying on them to save scum. I've beaten levels 1 through 4 in one shot, which I did on that recording. So, and I will show you outtakes at some point of that, because even with the bad audio from the game, because again, all you hear is just the echo from the TV, there's still some funny enough moments that are definitely worth saving, so. Plus for posterity, it's like, you know, that's the prototype of this series. That film, incomplete though it may be, was created about a month before my first video went live on YouTube for this new series. It's funny to look back just 2 months ago and see where this has progressed and my confidence. Like, you know, I'll say this again, I've said it a bunch of times already, like, I don't think I'm a very good speaker, but I can at least acknowledge where, even in this short time, how far I've come. And I know that even as I get more confident and capable and, you know, figure out how to improve the quality of this production within the means that are available to me, that I'm not going to be to everyone's tastes. And that's fine. I made jokes about it, you know. It could be as simple as, you know, people that are looking for a long plays that are nothing but maximum possible resolution and frame rate at all times. I'm gonna watch it if it's not 4K. So, obviously I'm not the channel for that, but then also, I know some people, they like to watch Let's Plays where the person's only talking about the game the whole time and, you know, doesn't let themselves explore other areas based on, you know, reactions to the game and thoughts that come up based on their memories of playing it in previous times in life. And I know some people also just prefer watching LPs with no commentary. So it's fine, you know. There's so much on YouTube, there's stuff for everybody. Alright. So the one thing, I don't like this track as much as the others, but to be fair, I think one of the reasons is because for whatever reason, it shares the same music as the desert level. I don't know if that was a running out of space issue or pressed for time issue on EA's part. I let myself drift a lot closer to that car than I should have. So we're kind of coasting through this. You know, once you come to grips with the mechanics of the game, it's kind of hard not to win on level 1. But, you know, we're just going through it organically. I'm not going to waste my time and yours grinding, because you could conceivably redo certain races even if you've already qualified, or even if you have an underpowered bike, you can keep racing and just getting whatever place that you can and just taking little bits of money here and there and grind your way. I mean, it's a valid enough strategy. I mean, I would have more respect for someone doing it that way than, you know, using a password that they didn't earn to just skip ahead. And not to be fair, if you use a password and you jump to level 5 and you beat that, I will still give you some respect, because it's an extremely hard level to finish. but still don't think you can really legitimately say that you beat the game. You beat the hardest part of the game, but you didn't clear the whole game. I know, not everybody will agree with that take, but that's where I stand. So what will probably happen is when we get to the end of level 2, I'll see where we stand as far as how long we've been playing and kind of what my situation looks like in the standings and with money to decide whether or not I want to write down a password. Just kind of use that as a save state, but not save scumming, just kind of like giving myself a few checkpoints, basically, you know, in case we lose power or something weird happens or there's some emergency and I need to shut down the recording where it is. Roughly speaking, the goal is to get to the end of level 3 by this part of the video. Level 2 shouldn't be a problem. Now I'm gonna do a few races with the default bike. With some luck and with a perfect run, you can get a qualifying placement. Like, you need to place at least 4th to pass any particular track and earn a qualification toward the next level. So if you race extremely well and you get lucky, and maybe some of the other riders at the head of the pack crash, or you're able to catch up just enough to them to maybe attack them or shove them into a car or something, or maybe a cop slows them down. What I'm doing is I'm hoping I can get at least 4th on this, but also earn just enough money, because I'm really close to getting the green bike. It's generally not a good idea to upgrade to just the next one on the list. I mean, that will make you competitive briefly, but it doesn't set you up very well for success when you get to the next level following, because you might not then have enough money to get what you need to be competitive at level 3, and so forth. Interesting thing about Natasha, I think most people that have played this game or have like watched a retrospective or history on it. Shoot, I was too busy watching her wreck, and then I wrecked. Natasha has her own AI. I think there might be a couple of other riders that are similar, like they're generally friendly and will only attack you if you attack them, but Natasha, I think, is the most distinct one, where her whole attitude will change if she becomes hyper-aggressive if you attack her. She won't just let you pass her, but if you're about to overtake her anyway, and she's on good terms with you, she'll let you make a clean pass. But it's cool that, you know, going all the way back to 1991, and, you know, the relatively small memory size of the cartridge and everything else that's going on, that, you know, simple as it may be, that there's some different AI behaviors. Because of everything that's been happening recently, I hate using the term AI, but that is the lingo that most game developers and publishers were already using at this time. And simulated intelligence is probably more accurate. Kind of how in Mass Effect, there's a distinction between virtual intelligence and artificial intelligence. You know, artificial intelligence being actual sentient life forms, and virtual intelligence being something that, while technologically sophisticated and at times seeming able to have a personality and independent thought is just a simulation, and ultimately it's never meant to pass as a real person. Like, all the VIs are very clearly holographic and aren't trying to impersonate real people. They can seem like they're having a conversation with you, but it's just based off programming. And not to go off on too much of a tangent. Not that that has stopped me in other videos prior to this. Plus, we have a lot of time on our hands with Rash here, but I think that's where we need to draw the line on AI in our timeline here, in this reality. Is, like, a lot of the stuff that's being called AI is just, you know, like the VIs in Mass Effect, basically. There's not a whole lot of difference between these two. I just like that the Kamikaze holds its mid-range power better. But it'll take, what, 2 or 3 races to grind that? Assuming I get, like, 4th or 5th, so we'll go with the Bonsai. It's still a better call than just going to the purple Panda motorcycle. Because it can do well on this level, but then it doesn't really set you up for success for level 3. And of course, the combat in this is very smooth and it's fun. This is a basic 3-button layout. You have a brake button, accelerate, and then C is your attack. So by default, if you have no direction inputs, you just punch, and hold up on C, ready a backhand. Down on C, you can kick, and then the game automatically decides what direction you're going to hit based on the closest rider to you. Very rarely does that ever work against you. Now, in this first game, the combat's not horribly well balanced in that it's usually pretty easy to outright defeat everyone you run into. Like, most of these go down with a single backhand. Now, their life bars do increase with each level, but it still tends to be pretty easy to defeat them. Road Rash 2 rebalanced the combat, so it's not so easy to just blow through all the competition. We'll cross that one another day. Road Rash 2 is my favorite of the entire series, but I have a lot of affection for this first one. Again, despite what the thumbnail indicates. It has been a 33-year Grudge match, like, never beaten it, ever. So, even though this is one of the games that I did own as a kid for the Genesis, and played a lot of it, why didn't I ever beat it? You know, even though it is hard as nails, I could have used the password system to give myself, like, checkpoints. And when I get frustrated, come back to it later. You know, just like an RPG, just kind of take it in chunks. But it's one of those games where I had a lot of fun, and I felt like I was in control, and it was very cathartic to blow through level 1 and level 2, and, you know, beat up some punks that have it coming, and rock out to the music. It felt good. When I was little, I lacked the maturity to not be a sore loser. But intertwined with that, you know, when I was a kid, then all the way through my teenage years, just bullied relentlessly at school. Basically, every day was some sort of living hell. And even in, grades as early as, 1, 2, 3, and so forth, I was already having thoughts of self-harm and not wanting to wake up the next day, just so I didn't have to go to school again and deal with all that. But, I'm not saying that to be melodramatic, it's just simply the truth. I lacked the wisdom and experience to be able to deal with that. When your principal's sitting there telling you stuff like, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can't hurt me, and it's like, yeah, to an adult mind, that makes a certain amount of sense, even though I don't totally agree with that. You're a tiny little kid getting literally beat up, even having teachers bully you and humiliate you. It's kind of like, what's a tiny little kid supposed to do? But said that to say that video games are pretty much the only area outside of, also my artwork. I love to draw. Whoops. Well, there's the first record. No, second record. At least that happened early enough, I think I can recover. Get a qualifying place. But yeah, effectively, with my brain not conjuring another term at this exact moment, it was like just about the only safe space I had. Where I felt like I had some kind of control over my life and my destiny, if you will. I could feel a sense of accomplishment without somebody trying to tear me down. Or use what I was passionate about as some kind of ammunition to embarrass me. Or all that stuff. So it was a lot more comforting to stick to games that I had committed enough to get good at them, like Sonic the Hedgehog, later Vector Man, Gunstar Heroes. But especially Sonic. And then, while there was an overlap, while we had the NES and the Genesis, was still replaying Turtles through the arcade game. Had gotten good enough at that to where I could win credit clear it. Very satisfying. It was something that gave me some peace to be like, hey, everything else is terrible. But at least I have control over this part of my life. And when a game would come along, even if it was fun and I liked a lot of it, like the music and the gameplay, like Rash here, I think once I got to a point where the game really handed me my ass, I think losing that sense of accomplishment and that sense of control discouraged me from trying to plow ahead. It's just a young kid, I need to give myself more grace. I just hadn't learned how to be a proper loser yet. There's probably a better way to say that, but just like, sometimes it's okay to fail, sometimes it's okay to lose. It's not quite that simple anyway, life's not so black and white where everything can be chalked up ultimately to wins and losses. This isn't a hockey game or whatever. even success and failure, sometimes there can be a bit of a nebulous quality to that. But of course, with video games, it's much more simple and obvious. It's like, well, you either succeeded or you didn't. So. But I think even though I no longer have the healing factor or the endurance to play quite as long as when I was a little child, I think I'm a better gamer now overall, because I've learned that patience. Being willing to say, okay, yeah, this game beat my ass, but what can I learn from it? How do I get better? Is this something that I can actually beat? What do I need to do to just fix what went wrong and get better? I mean, there are some games that if I had them in my collection right this minute and try to do one of these videos, we might run into something where I'm like, hey, I played as far as I can, and then we'll file that under attempted to defeat this part of my Genesis collection. Like, I'm sure if I fired up Truxton, I'd get my ass stomped. Like, I'm not great at shmups. Probably the one I'm best at is, at least from the Genesis library, unfortunately I've never gotten to play an original copy, is Musha. The music is so good that it motivates me to do better. So what, there's 7 levels in Musha and I got to level 4, so I was like, hey, that's pretty good for me, considering I'm not super experienced with shmups. That was a genre that somehow passed me by almost completely. The only shmup that I played when I was little was Super R-Type. And just... I think I had seen a few others in gaming magazines, and then of course I saw Iron Hander on PlayStation, and I played a demo of it. This is cool, but I just was still largely ignorant. I didn't realize what a huge genre that was, especially on the Genesis. And then also the PC Engine. So trying to get caught up with those to the best I can, but along with the RPGs, the shmups on the Genesis unfortunately tend to be the heavy hitters on price. Would like to see Truxton on my shelf though, at some point. And Fire Shard. And Musha, but yeah, I mean, Musha is like one of the most unobtainable Genesis and Mega Drive games ever in its original form. Only outdone by certain games like Eliminate Down. Yeah, that's an extremely long-winded way of me saying, like, that's the gist of the Grudge match, is, you know, this game, as much as I love it, it has taunted me since 1991. But I think it's taken until this point in life to have the combination of skills needed, I hope, when we get to level 5. Of course, I said that right when I ran into a car. Oh, the oncoming traffic and road rash. That should be like one of the all-time most despised and feared video game enemies. And you can't do anything to defeat them, all you can do is try to avoid them. Well, we'll take second place. I'm not gonna, try to do a perfectionist run. Like, it would have been nice to get the first place, but... I really don't want to end up with that bike again. It's really fast, that one, it's dangerous to reckon at because you can only afford to take a couple of spills and you're done, but that's the target, because I want that sharp handling. Well, that's the ultimate goal. I mean, that's the most powerful bike, obviously, but... I think that level of handling, but without the unbelievably ridiculous horsepower, should be a good combo. But what I'm going for is I really want to get the Ferrucci 850, and then hopefully get to a spot where I can get the yellow Panda, and see if I can at least get 4th or 3rd place on level 5 with that. I don't know, we'll see. I'm kind of... There's all sorts of different strategies you can go for with this. And there is a certain point where you have to yield to, like, hey, I just need more speed, otherwise I can't keep up with these people, but there's some variability. Going back to the visuals, with the scaling and stuff, again, it's choppy, especially by today's standards, but I'm always impressed with especially the scrolling backgrounds. They look beautiful. And you know, even though it's just tricks of a 2D engine, it still has a convincing sense of depth to it, in my opinion. I really feel like I'm driving far off into the desert here. It doesn't matter, really, to me that it's not actually 3D. Like, it gives enough of the effect of being in a 3D environment for me. You know, and obviously it's not as smooth as Outrun or Super Hang-On, but... great sense of speed and depth. That you're really going somewhere. As we get further along, we'll probably get less chatty, because I'll have to start really focusing a lot more on what I'm doing here. Especially when unexpected things happen, like you could be totally in control of where you're gonna go to dodge everything in front of you, but then like one of the other riders wrecks and their bike gets thrown in front of you, and when you hit that, it's like hitting a pile of rocks or a speed bump. You know, it can send you flying, and all of a sudden you've lost control. So you have to be prepared for so many contingencies. It's a good thing I hit the brakes there. So, the oncoming traffic in Road Rash is the proverbial 16-bit bullet whizzed past me, life flashed before my eyes kind of moment. What is it? Was it Churchill that said nothing is so exhilarating as to be shot at without result? I paraphrased it. 3 more races with that much money to get the bike I'm going for. Really, once you get past this level, you really want to stop focusing too much on fighting. You only want to fight when you really need to get somebody off your back. Or if that'll make the difference between qualifying or not. So, obviously, if you can unseat someone, that sets them way back, and they have way less chance of catching up to you at the very end and taking the placement that you were counting on. We're having a great time. This time of you are. I mean, I would hope if you're this far into the playlist that you are having a great time. You know, I acknowledge that. Oh shoot, did I hit Natasha? That's what I get for being too aggressive. I was trying to hit Butch. Oh, she's gonna be pissed. I lost a friend. I don't know if it's permanent, like if she spends the rest of the game pissed off at you. He went flying way off into the fields. I'll see you later, dude. But, listen to me trying to form words and sentences. I suppose you could have landed on this video out of nowhere, not having seen anything else that I made previously. But again, if you've watched this far into this video and it's your first one of mine that you're watching, I must be doing something right. It's not just a regular Let's Play. I mean, I guess out of all the things that it encompasses, like, that's the biggest part of it. You know, the biggest part of your screen is taken up by the game itself. These roads start getting really twisty in the later parts. Sometimes you think you're in your lane and then it just violently shifts over and all of a sudden you're in the other lane and you're about to hit a car. Okay, we'll take it. Yeah. Breathing intensifies. "33 years later, it still never gets old." especially if it's Biff. Just have to remember to breathe. And to speak properly with good posture. It's so easy though. Again, I think for some people, they're just so natural at speaking. They're so good at presenting and so good at just natural, fluid conversation. And as if they never had to be trained, not just with their voice, but posture, body language, gesticulation. Yes. It's impressive. Okay, maybe Natasha's not mad. Because usually when you hit her, she's the first person to chime in the intermission. I wonder if it's where I hit her and managed to not inflict any damage. Because you can have like a glancing blow. Maybe. We'll see. I try not to hit Akira either. I mean, sometimes he will attack you, but he is usually more focused on just racing clean, as it were. That was way too close, folks. It's getting scary. Oh, these mountains look pretty. It almost looks like a Bob Ross painting. Lots of happy little trees. Right when I was about to say, not a mistake, but a happy accident. Oh, we can salvage it, we can salvage it. The police in this game, you really have no option but to just outmaneuver and outrun them. You can hit them, but it doesn't cause any damage, you can't unseat them. About the only benefit is if you do manage to kick them into an obstacle, it will slow them down. And get them off your tail. I think you can already see where this is going with the difficulty. When you're starting to make turns like this, at this higher speed, and you're still trying to fight, I want to ask for your opinion, Grudge. Bad thing about this bike is you can wipe out so suddenly. The bikes with better handling, you'll see the sprite start to move over. You're almost doing a power slide. But the bikes with poorer handling, you don't even see much of an animation change, and then all of a sudden you've wiped out. So I do need to upgrade soon. If I can qualify on these without having to redo them a bunch, all the better. Just to break things up a little bit, and also to make the music a little less repetitive, well... Shoot, she is mad. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hit you. Now I want to know if that's permanent, like, if you go so long and you're cool with her, if she'll eventually be like, alright. It's so bassy and so twangy. This track definitely fits the desert better. That almost succeeded. It is fun to go flying in this game, but it gets really treacherous in the later stages of the game. Good thing these roads are made so well, unlike the real world. Especially in America. Yay. Occasionally I do look down and make sure, is it still recording? Like, OBS is really great software. I've never had any major issues so far. There might be some residual paranoia from in the past with different programs where it's like... didn't have the best time. All of a sudden be like, why did it stop recording? Or why didn't it at least have some kind of a warning pop up like, hey, there's some kind of an issue and we're going to stop recording now. That was mainly with the software that came with this capture card. For its time, and for what I think it was more geared toward doing, which was probably capturing stuff from a VCR or the earlier DVD players that weren't quite approaching high def. It's fine, but... sometimes with game capture it would struggle or drop frames in weird places without warning, or like stop recording suddenly. Anyway, that's the past. Alright, shit. You're not from the show, Chips, so I'm not gonna be nice to you. You weren't ready for that reference, were you? Unless you were of a certain age, then maybe. That's what you like to see, especially so close to the end. 1,500 galleries for me, thank you. Oh, we're so close. I'll say my favorite for last. Let's do Redwood. That's true. I myself prefer good handling over top speed. See you later, Beth. Possibly in Road Rash 2. He's in Road Rash 2, I know that much. And Road Rash 3, I believe. See you later, Zippy. He ain't gonna be in Road Rash 2, I'm pretty sure. O'Leary is generally the easiest comp to deal with, but even he is a menace on later levels. Having to go so fast and deal with so many more obstacles, like, because even the beginning parts of the track have more cars, more obstacles, you know, more gravel, oil slicks, everything. So again, memorization will only get you so far. You can only really memorize just the raw track itself. Everything else is hugely variable. Natasha, please don't stay mad at me. When you piss her off, she becomes like just about the most aggressive opponent in the game. Ow. This may be Road Rash and it may be combat racing, but, you know, I would rather have friends. And just punch the jerks that deserve it the most, by default. Way too close, way too close. Heart rate just went up. That'll make you breathe, playing Road Rash. To be fair though, also, to give myself a little more grace, is, you know, I mean, I would think by this point I've done other videos with real talk on this, but in case I haven't, in case future me hasn't already taken care of it. I mean, I'm just sitting on my bed. The bedroom turned into the game room. Like, originally, it was... my place was sectioned off, like, oh, I'll do a modern gaming part of my home, and then the retro gaming part, but then... everything, almost everything just migrated over here, and now it's just the game room. I can't afford to get new furniture or a lot of the things that I would want to further customize this place, so just working within my limitations. it just ended up being, with what I have, very comfortable to just kind of have this in the bedroom. Especially with the CRT for watching old cartoons and movies or anything else that I was hitting the brake, but I wasn't doing it enough. But yeah, watching stuff that was meant for full screen and 4x3, you know, especially old cartoons, it's been wonderful in here. I'm glad I was so close to the finish. I've had so many instances where I wreck close to the finish, but then get passed up. It's like, no, I was so close. How could you? Okay, big decision. I mean, what? How much was that? I don't think I could quite... So it would take 3 finishes to then afford the Panda 750 from where I am. That bike is life goals right now. This one's obtainable. I need more races. I only have 2 races left on this level, so I would not be able to get that at this level anyway. So what's the jump here? It's only 10 horsepower more. But much better handling. It's gonna have way better mid-range. Alright. We're gonna go with it. I'm inclined to say that I'm gonna have a better time with that than I did with the Shuriken. The gray Shuriken. I forgot the number. Unfortunately, in-game, this looks the same as your starter bike. It's red. It's like, oh, I wanted it to be pink like in the picture. Hopefully I didn't just screw myself. The problem is, you know, even if I got in first place with the blue bike, I still wouldn't have had enough money for the yellow Panda. And then I'd be going to level 4, and then it would be really hard to qualify with that bike on level 4. A lot of overthinking can happen in this game, but... Tasha, I don't want to fight you. We're cool. Cool. You saw my end. Handling's much better though, this is nice. That club makes such a satisfying sound. One downside of being isolated in first place is you don't have anyone ahead of you that can give you a little extra advance warning of traffic oncoming, because obviously the other riders do their fair share of wrecking, but generally, especially as you go into further levels, you'll see them dart away from traffic. That gives you a little heads up. And also, if you have other riders near you, sometimes you can shove them into the cops and kind of make it easier to get away from them. So it's not like being in first place is being on easy street. Plus, also, you have to get through this gauntlet of obstacles, and turns. And can we have a moment for why this desert has so many twists and turns? It's like, could you not just keep it going on a relatively straight path? What's in the desert that you need to keep twisting and turning around? Yeah. Well, this is what I signed up for. Hey look, a nuclear power plant right at the intersection. Bullet times for a hair to fly. Or my lips. Those of you out there with thin and wispy hair like mine, you know what I'm talking about. Very easily, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, we're gonna get stuck on your face. I could have paused the game. Some of those turns, like, that go over a hill, it's so scary, like, please don't let there be oncoming traffic. Okay, we're on good terms again. Okay, if you're nice to her for long enough, she forgets. I would like to think, you know, if we're going way over the top into detail and role-playing this, be like, hey, we can have a conversation like, hey, I was trying to hit them, not you, I'm sorry. Okay, we'll bury the hatchet over a couple beers. Speaking of beer, it would have been nice if I had some right now. Maybe that's what we'll do. For part 2, I'll be like, okay, this is the part of the game where alcohol is required. So far in this series, I haven't imbibed any alcohol during the recordings, but you know, I'm not a prude, I'm not against it. It's just, I guess honestly it just hadn't occurred to me, like, oh yeah, you know, I'm an adult, it's fine. There's other gaming channels, like, Gaming Off the Grid, they're all about mixing beer with their videos. And as I'll say in the description, you know, when I do mention some other channels, I'm not pretending to have any affiliation with them. But the ones that I, like, link to or tag are ones that I think you should check out. I try to do that more insistently for channels that are newer or just getting started. You know, I'm a small channel myself, so I'm not pretending that I'm gonna be able to drive huge amounts of traffic to another channel, but I still, nonetheless, like to support. Regardless of how many subscribers or views they have, like, a good creator is a good creator, a good artist is a good artist, and I like to show my support, especially for the indies. Or for the people that you can tell, like, they love what they're doing. Even if they happen to be getting paid for it, Because again, it's kind of like, if someone offers you money to do what you're already doing, what you're passionate about, like, yeah, especially compared to some of the crap a lot of us have to do in day jobs for a living. It's like, yeah, you know, it's silly not to take it, but, you know, as long as you're not putting all your eggs in the YouTube basket, you don't want to have everything you're doing creatively in one platform necessarily. We got this, man. We got this. Well, man, woman, envy. Alien from Alpha Centauri, if there are any aliens in that star system. The cow? The cow's on screen. Whoops. This is not the time to be dramatically gesticulating to the camera. Yeah, screw it, you know? It takes all kinds to make a world. Let people complain. You know, if a certain, man baby that likes to complain about names and pronouns in games wants to make a rant. Make a rant about Road Rash. It lets you pick a feminine or a non-binary name. Rage. Alrighty. Well, silly me, I didn't have my notebook next to me, but I will write down that password. And you can recall it on the main menu too if you accidentally skipped past the race results too fast. So I'm going to end the recording here. We're in a good spot. So what I'll do is for part 2, is obviously pick up where we left off. It'll be on a different day. You know, I want to let this simmer for a bit. Maybe build some suspense, who can say. It's no best of both worlds from Star Trek The Next Generation, but maybe it can be a little bit like, what's gonna happen? How's it gonna go? We'll see. But thanks for watching, thanks for playing, and we'll see you in part 2.